So if anyone is looking to do wealth creation in the country from a perspective of say 5 years, 10 years or even 15 years, this becomes a very interesting pocket. Because your best of the companies will keep on coming up from small cap to mid cap. Then you choose from these mid cap names and you're investing in some of those mid cap which will become the leaders of the next decade.
Hello and welcome to Gaining Conversations, a podcast about personal finance. I'm your host, Ravi Kumar, co-founder of Gaining Ground Investment Services. In Gaining Conversations, I talk to financial experts and industry leaders about personal finance and how they think about investing. If you're interested in meeting your financial life goals and achieving financial freedom, Gaining Conversations is the perfect podcast for you. This time on the podcast, I have an extra special guest, Cheenu Gupta. Cheenu is the Senior Vice President and Fund Manager at HSBC Mutual Fund and has over 18 years of experience in the capital markets. She manages over 25,000 crores of assets across different schemes of HSBC Mutual Fund. She has an interesting career start filled with some of the best fund companies. She began at UTI Mutual Fund before she joined a life insurance company where she was the AVP Equity Investments and then moved to Canara Robeco as a fund manager and now at HSBC Mutual Fund since 2021. Cheenu Gupta, welcome to Gaining Conversations.
Yes, thank you, Ravi. Thank you for inviting me.
I've been looking forward to having you for this podcast for a while because you have a really fascinating background. Let's start with your education. You're an engineer with information technology and an MBA. What brought you to mutual fund industry?
So I must say I come from a very conservative family, a family which rarely invested in stocks. So my first coming close to stock market actually happened in my MBA, wherein my second year fees, which my mom had given me to put it for my course at SPJN, I took an education loan because SBI had come to our campus and was very eager to give us education loans that time. And I used that money which she gave me as a fee to invest in stock market. I told her that, okay, now because it's part of my fee and I'm taking care of it, please don't ask. And that was, learning about the basics of the market and live experimenting. And I think that is how the journey started. It was actually a very deadly, first hands-on experience, very different. But the way we say, many good things in life happen by accident. My real placement in industry happened by accident. I had done my final placement at college and was placed at one of the top banks. Had gotten the post and segment I wanted, was very happy. And when everything was done, I packed my bags to go for my vacation. Somebody just said a contest has come up. UTI Mutual Fund was having a contest about different type of investing, and we thought of working on investment in art domain, a very fancy and new domain. But because we were students, we thought it's a good way, and that 1 lakh money was a real enticement for us to stay back on campus for 2-3 days. So we had worked on a summer vacation on these projects, and I think that came in handy. We presented. And when we won the prize, we were happy about that 1 lakh money. But I think Mr. UK Sinha, in all his graciousness, when reporters asked him that, okay, prize, but what more for these students? He said, okay, we are giving them jobs.
Wow.
So while we were celebrating that 1 lakh, I think something else was just getting in shape, and that is our coming into this industry. And it's been a great journey since then.
Great. That's quite interesting. I know. So you worked at Tata AIA Insurance. You looked after the equity investments there, and then you moved to Canara Robeco. What was that experience like? So how did your thinking shape up about the style of investing, about markets and about risk?
Understanding, yeah. I think market is the biggest teacher for all of us, and the kind of learning experience we gain every year is very different. So over these years, I also graduated from being an analyst to a fund manager. And the way you look at things, I think that perspective changes. Whereas for an analyst, getting into details and nuances is very critical. And I still carry that bit of analyst in me, and I like going in the details. I think for a fund manager, there are a lot more things to look forward to. And my realization was that rather than just looking at the piece in front of you, if you try to look at the underlying trends, the shifting trends that can happen in Indian industry, they are far more fascinating. And one can then make an investment not just from a year's perspective, but from a multi-year perspective. And you can try and get those early winners which are coming up in those trends. So by the time I graduated, I started, more eagerly looking for these changing trends and patterns in industry to see how investment opportunities can come
I've heard exactly the same from your colleagues. So they say that Cheenu is very growth oriented. She's very much into the companies, and she is far more deeper into numbers, more optimistic on growth, and she's very performance oriented. This is what you bring to the table. This is what I've heard from many people. Very interesting. So tell me more about your investing style. How do you construct a portfolio, and what is that you think when you start constructing a portfolio like a mid-cap fund?
So usually when I'm constructing a portfolio, I try to think of stocks from three perspectives. So I call it the bucketing approach. In my first bucket, like a 15-20% kind of bucket, where I'm looking at stocks with stability, very known companies, nothing can go wrong with them. So usually you will call them large cap companies, very comfortable. They may or may not be growing faster than the industry, but they are the real stable ones. Then is the next leg, which is next 50 to 60%, where you hunt down and get to the companies which can execute far better than others. I think another realization over the years is that execution is a far underrated piece. We give a lot of importance to opportunities and competition, etc. But somebody who can execute well, the compounding effect of execution really shows. So good executors who can do that work, they are in that 50-60% bucket. And the last bucket, which is around 30%, I think I view and look at that bucket as more like an experimentation piece where I'm looking out for new trends, looking at companies which I haven't looked before, companies which are either coming out from a deep slumber, management change or some other change, or as I said, trends really shape up and you want to see and understand how they're happening. So this is like that window for the portfolio where new ideas come in. If they are successful over time, they graduate to the second piece, high growth orientation. If by chance they do not work, then I think they have to make way for others.
So in terms of pricing power, corporate governance, and businesses which you understand, these are all core things when you're selecting. What do you do with businesses which you don't understand?
So at this, I must tell you that for most of us in the industry, I think Warren Buffett in India has been the guru. And I read this book, The Warren Buffett Way, long back. This was in my pre-MBA days, in fact. I just read it out of curiosity, The Warren Buffett Way, and I found it very simplistic. And one thing which struck to the heart and core is that complexity is not something that you should experiment in investment. Business which you can understand easily and you can explain easily. These are the kind of businesses which can make you money in the long term. So even today while I'm investing, I try to look for companies where moving pieces or pieces which cannot be controlled, they are at a minimum, where I understand things really well. I can get to the nuances, as I said, and have a decent bit of handle. So I maintain that piece and hence look for simplistic business models.
So how do you handle, pressure of managing investor money during market downturn? How do you maintain that conviction in your investments when market sentiments turn negative? And especially when it comes to growth stocks, which are under pressure for a shorter period of time. And how do you convince yourself that I need to stay invested? And it is only a temporary phase.
Yes. So for me, viewing investment in this period is like more, not trying to sit on the driving seat or the front seat, just trying to sit on the rear seat. When you are on the driving seat, everything around impacts you. Too much noise and clutter. The moment you step into the rear seat, you can look at the direction where you're heading far more clearly. So, in fact, right now, if you look at the trend in the market, stock rotation, sector rotation, as the way we call it, is happening very fast. Yeah. So very difficult to try to gauge which sector does well in next 6 months or 3 months. I think it's much better to get those companies with which you would love to grow in the next 3-4 years. I think this is the kind of investment you want to do. And you do understand that 3 to 6 months, there can be a lot of noises in between. Whenever there's volatility in the market, the only thing that you do, time again, go back and check your basics. So are the expectations that you were, are they changing in any way? Is the scenario changing in any way? Do that stress testing on numbers. So stock prices can be very volatile. But if a company's fundamentals are moving the way that you had envisaged, then I think you stay put, bear or brace that period of 3 to 6 months of underperformance. And then in a 2 to 3 year time, I think returns definitely catch up and speak powerfully.
So, talking about sectors, what sectors you believe will drive India's economic growth, let's say, over the next decade? If you have to bet your entire portfolio on one macro trend, what would that be? Sectors you think market is still underestimating?
I do not know if market is underestimating, but when trend one would be like a very, very understatement. Let me go with two. Yeah. At the same time, I must agree that 5-6 years back, I would have been happy to go with one, which is consumption. But the way now I see India shaping up, I think manufacturing is something you cannot put out. There will be jitters because of geopolitical reasons, tariff, etc. These news. But if I look at a picture from a 5 or 10 year perspective, I think a lot of manufacturing, at least for the consumption itself in India, will start happening. And some companies will start playing a role in global supply chains. So manufacturing can happen in US, manufacturing can happen in Europe, but our companies can definitely be a supplier to these companies. So which are these companies which can become part of these supply chains? I think this is one trend that I would want to pick up and want to invest. Another one, consumption, like it always fascinates me. It is one thing in India which is permanently there, but it changes its aspects every decade. So we were in the decade of penetration, 2000 to 2010, when you had your HUL and Nestle giving you double-digit growth also. Then this decade of 2010 and 2020, where discretionary consumption and aspirational consumption came up in a big way. We all spoke of premiumization, and we witnessed that. I think this decade, which is already going on, will be given to convenience-oriented consumption. So anything and everything which a consumer can get with least effort, can make you lazier, by that definition, will be picked up. Look at what Netflix does. It tells you what you may like. It doesn't even make you do the effort of searching what you may like. So that kind of orientation, quick commerce, which has come up in that space, I think a lot of such changes which can add to this convenience will be a change. And last not the least, Indian consumer is one of the most value-conscious consumers globally.
Is it still happening?
I know we might question looking at a younger generation especially. When I say that on a broader basis, yes, Indians are very picky and choosy where they are paying, how they are paying. And for the first time, after, a couple of years of COVID, they started paying for this convenience of delivery. Okay. I don't think this change is something I expected to see. And the moment you see this, that people are willing to pay for convenience, I think this was like that trajectory change which we witnessed.
Right. So that convenience, theme is much stronger today.
In consumption today.
Cheenu, a lot of people, including me, we have monthly investments in mid-cap funds. So we normally invest with a long-term view. How do you see the growth potential for these kind of schemes over the long term?
So interesting question, I must say, Ravi. Normally, we always try to bring up the fact that, large cap valuations are very comfortable and one can invest there. Mid cap valuations tend to be a little higher up and so on in small cap. I think let's look from a little longer term perspective. The way India is shaping up. I think for any investor to first look at a scenario of investment in a country, it's important to check the political certainty. Right now, we are having one of the most certain political environments. Our policy making and regulations is like one of the best we've seen in last several years. In that environment, I think the scenario for looking at multi-year growth trajectory automatically becomes very natural. Expecting our large cap companies to give us a growth of 15 to 20% is like a tall ask. They have become really large in size. They are like the elephants. Nothing wrong can happen to them, but they cannot move at the pace that we can expect these mid cap companies to move. At the same time, when it comes to small caps, there are chances that there is higher volatility in the small cap space. What we call accidents. Like if you pick 10 stocks, maybe 5 stocks may not work. That mid-cap occupies that place in between where you say that you're getting kind of best of both the worlds. You're getting a high growth trajectory, which is closer to small caps. So 18-20% kind of growth, which is closer to small cap growth. And you're getting the risk profile, which is little closer to large caps. So risk is definitely there, but accidents do not happen the way that can happen in small caps. So if anyone is looking to do wealth creation in the country from a perspective of, say, 5 years, 10 years, or even 15 years, this becomes a very interesting pocket. Because your best of the companies will keep on coming up from small cap to mid cap. Then you choose from these mid cap names, and you're investing in some of those mid cap which will become the leaders of the next decade. A lot of our indices names which are there in the index, they were mid cap companies just few years back. So it's like a very good selection filter which is there in the mid cap universe, which is very automatic. And I do believe that anybody looking to do wealth creation from any perspective, be it retirement or meeting some of your goals, doing an SIP in mid cap, it can take care of the volatility that you could expect and at the same time generate good wealth.
So shifting gears, let's look at which two people you had the most significant impact on your professional life. I wanted to ask you, any mentors or early influencers? I know you worked with Canara Robeco, you worked with Tata AIA. Any influencers?
So when I began my career at UTI, I was blessed with a lot of mentors there, and in particular, Mr. Neeraj Kumar. He was an assistant fund manager and in charge for us people at the research. He used to track the pharma sector, and I learned tracking the sector from him. So, understanding how to look at businesses, how to question the management. That helped me evolve my own framework from there on. So maybe one of those early mentors. And during my later days, I can say Mr. Krishna Sangvi at Canara Robeco, under whom I was the co-fund manager for small cap. So learning to look at small cap names from him. And my current CIO, Mr. Cheenu Gupta. I really appreciate his clarity of thinking that he gets and the patience in investing that he gets. So yeah, blessed to have quite a few mentors.
So let's get to my three favorite questions that, of course, we ask all our guests. If a millennial or someone who's just getting out of college were to come to you and say, hey, Cheenu, I want to start a career in finance, I want to become a fund manager, what sort of advice would you give them?
So definitely, I think, two virtues you cannot do without. One is hard work. There's no substitute to hard work. Because conviction in our industry cannot be borrowed. There's nothing called borrowed conviction. You have to build your own conviction for which you need to do your hard work. So no substitute for that. So do your work yourself. Obviously, you have a lot of resources available to help you out. But doing that. And the second is having that patience to create wealth. Trying to create wealth early by getting in stocks which can give you real gains in a shorter time. That is not the mindset one should have. One should have that kind of investing where you're investing with the right names. Gains can automatically be made when you are there. So having that patience to be in the right names and, as I said, hard work. These two things.
What have you been reading lately, and what would you recommend our listeners to read? Any book recommendations or anything, any shows you're watching that inspire you?
So when it comes to book, I think now the time I get to read books is more on flights when I'm really cut off and nothing can disturb. Otherwise, our own work has a lot of reading involved. And though I think when I was young, reading was my grand hobby and I've read a lot earlier, it's been little lesser now. Still, I think the way I'm now, traveling on a flight, the book I'm carrying with me is Emotional Intelligence. So something which talks about a field different from investing, but good to reflect on. Last couple of years, some books which I really liked were by Ray Dalio's Principle of Work and Life. The way he showed how investment people can get to apply those philosophies in their life, that was interesting. And Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. So it gave me a lot of reflection opportunities. Actually, the way you think and how you want to take actions, you could relate to that. So
that's interesting recommendations. Thank you. So my final question, what is that you know about the world of investing today that you wish you knew when you began your career in 2006, 2007?
So I'm sure you're asking from what I have missed, but I think I will start with something good. I started with a sector which was earlier pharma, but then I became a consumer analyst, and that helped me cross a big hurdle. Valuation is a very big hurdle in our country. But when you are forced to be in that consumption domain only, you end up understanding that within that constraint of valuation, how you can pick up winners in that space. I think that really helped me a lot in my career. Apart from that, I think now with years and learning, something which I mentioned earlier, I think I would still go back to saying that I would be happier investing more time to businesses which have lesser moving parts. I think this is where I began with, and this just proved, because a lot of businesses we spend time understanding, but something in the global scenario would move, some pricing of commodities would move, and the entire business model could rock because of global competition. I think getting those variables down plays a big role in finding simpler investment. So that just stands underlined.
That's quite fascinating. Thank you, Cheenu, for being so generous with your time. If you're an investor looking at India's mid-cap opportunity, this conversation probably gave you a lot to think about. We've been speaking to Cheenu Gupta. She is the Senior Vice President and Fund Manager at HSBC Mutual Fund. If you enjoy this conversation, do check our previous podcast. You can find these at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. I am Ravi Kumar. You've been listening to Gaining Conversations. Thank you, Cheenu.
Thank you.